Well, I don't usually make videos about famous people I have known and loved or had affairs with or were friends with or was dumped by. You know, I don't do it because I don't really care about getting views off of somebody famous. It seems, well, for one, it undermines who I am. You know, what I've accomplished in life. If they're really, really famous, and hey, nobody knows the name Carol Roper as a writer. Well, a few people do, but not thousands or even millions. But you know, the anniversary of his death is coming, and in about 2 weeks. And his birthday was just a week or so ago, and he would have been 71 if he had not killed himself. And I thought, I would talk about when I first met him. And he actually did a play of mine in San Francisco at the College of Marin. And that's when I first met him. And I thought he was really very talented. But I also thought there was something very warm about him. And very cuddly. He was very seductive. The women loved him, let me tell you. They just loved him. First time I ever saw him, he was like carrying a girl on his back and wearing like some sort of, I don't know, wife beater shirt and a pair of shorts. And I went, oh, that's the star of my play. Oh my God. But we got to talking while I was there. I was there for about a month. And the play was produced, and there's an existing history of it in the newspapers and the reviews or something. He got great reviews. The play got so-so plays. It was an anti-Vietnam War play, and he basically played a guy who didn't want to go to war. He was an artist. So we talked, and I really said to him, look, you're really going to have to get out of this cute little community and go to Juilliard, to go to New York and study. At that time it was the Herbert Berghof Institute, but he was going to go to college. And he, I guess, thought about it, and he taught me about one thing, was the I Ching, sort of the Chinese Book of Wisdom. He was very, very philosophical, even as a kid. He was like 19. And, I had some standards at that time of not sleeping with people who were like not majors, even though technically it was not a minor. I went, no, get out of my bed. Come back in a couple of years, which he did. A few years later, he showed up in New York. He was going to Juilliard, and neither of us had money. My plays were being done, but they were not making any money. And we went for a walk on McDougal Street. I used to be a waitress there, and so we had no money, but I still knew some people who worked there, and so they gave us rolls to eat, and we walked around McDougal Street thinking we were just the hottest things, what we were. He was now of age, and so he spent the night and a couple of nights, and I saw him off and on. He was a kid, he's 10 years younger than I was, and he had a girlfriend back in San Francisco who eventually became his wife. And a few years later, I moved to California to make some money. I was tired of starving in New York, and I knew that I could get work in California writing television. Not exciting, not wonderful, but I didn't want to wind up being a shopping cart lady in New York. And so we met each other there again, and he was actually beginning to do comedy. He had started doing comedy up in San Francisco, and he came down to do the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, and at that time I had a young cousin visiting me, Chris Ann, from Long Island, New York, with a friend of hers. And so that night we took him to his first audition at the Comedy Store. He went on at 1 o'clock in the morning, and there were, I think, besides us, we were 3 people, the woman who ran the store and ran the comedy store, and maybe 1 or 2 other people. It was like 1 in the morning, the place was empty, and we sat through all the comedians. And he did his act. And frankly, I thought it was like it didn't move me. I really hated the masturbation stuff. I really thought he was better than that. I knew he was better than that and smarter than that. But it was really popular, and it was really popular. And he stayed with us. This is a cute story. We split the bed up. I had a queen-size bed, so we put a mattress on the floor for my cousin and her friend, and of course Robert and I stayed on the box springs. And my cousin took pictures of this, by the way. There are existing pictures somewhere of this that I'm not making. It's not an old lady making this story up. And then he came on a regular basis to Los Angeles. I introduced him to my friends at that time, Sonia Sones, who's since become a very popular young adult writer. She was really talented then. She was a film editor. And but he was always borrowing money from me. I was barely getting along. I was like, you know, babysitting for René Auberjonois' children. René Auberjonois, you know, are people like, you may not, or you may know his name from television, but he also is deceased now. And also, I had tried to get Robin to do the play again in New York when I was with the Kurt Dempster's ensemble studio, and they didn't want to take, you know, he didn't want Robin Williams or Stockard Channing, who was also a friend of mine at that time, to do the lead roles in the play because the ensemble had a policy of only using their members. Stockard and Robin weren't members, and also their members as turns. So he was staying often with me, but a lot. And I was just barely getting by. I was like babysitting. I hadn't even scored my first job yet there. I was getting paid for, like, in cash out of the back of somebody's trunk for doing some sort of softcore porno script for him, and it wasn't really, those were the days, my friends. I don't talk about him anymore. And I thought, you know, about, well, what happened to him? He became, well, before he became famous, the last time I actually spent any time with him, I was driving him to the airport. And before he got out of the car, he said, I have no money. I don't have enough money for a ticket. And I had like $20 left. And I gave it to him. And I said, Robin, you know, you're going to have to find somebody else to help you out because I'm just getting by myself here, honey. And, yeah. Now, the whole point of the video is he never paid me back that $20. He still owes me that money. And I'm glad. I'm glad that happened. And he became famous. And you know, famous people are different than we are. Just like the rich are different from the poor. Famous people are different from people who are not famous. And he went on and did a lot of wonderful work. And he had children and he had family. And then I guess something happened to him that made him not want to go on anymore. And you know, Billy Crystal is the same age and he's on Broadway, and Whoopi Goldberg, they did comic relief together. You know, I wish he'd made another choice. Thanks for listening.